We want this to be the webcam, or we want this to be it looks very blown up over there, but I'm embracing all the different ways that technology can work for us, that everything is working out for our highest good. And I'm sitting down again in the day one mama mentality that that I get to sit down, talk story with myself, and yeah, how I'm showing up today, how I'm showing up today. Today was launch of the Aina that is Lahaina, this beautiful book. Showed it yesterday. Just love it. To honor Lahaina. And yeah, in full honesty, like I wasn't sure if I was ready to launch it. Like I've been incubating it and holding it close for the past year, really. I wrote it last October, and now it's October 1st today. And then reached out to the illustrator, Tiara Kobayashi Bautista, last early December, so 9 months ago. And it's been 9 months of um, pitching the story to her and designing the illustrations alongside of her and diving into the full kaleidoscope of emotions that came with telling the story and revisiting the trauma and inviting in and tapping into the Hawaiian core cultural values that have been on display and the hope and the resilience told from the banyan tree. And, you know, with a book and process, the self-publishing, I went through many iterations of editing, many proofs, many trips to the UPS store, many waiting on. And because I published the book on both Barnes and Noble and Amazon KDP, there are specifications for dimensions of the page, for cover art, for the interior that are different for both the paperback and the hardback. So all that to say, there were 4 different versions of the book that had to go back and forth between myself and Tiara, multiple rounds. And you know, I chose to dive into that part. It's not the like sexy fun part, the editing, but it also just allowed me to see it from every angle. And the final product, which maybe I'll tweak it in the future, but there's 2 little apostrophes that snuck back in to the summary of the book page that had been eradicated in a previous version, and then they snuck back in insidiously into the final version that we have printed here of all 4 of them. And it's like the word it's it apostrophe s, so it is, and it's not grammatically correct because the word is it's without the it is. But they're there, and it reminds me that it's everything is imperfectly imperfect, and the fact that I didn't know if I was fully ready, and we didn't have the website fully up and functioning to the degree that we wanted it to, JD and I, and but the story is ready to share. Like the aloha is there, the intent and the reverence with which it was written. My prayer is that it is deeply honoring of Hawaiian culture and values, and invites myself and everyone along the nonlinear healing path forward for Lahaina, for Maui. And the feeling of not being ready told me that everything I needed to know to just press yes, launch it. Last night I pressed yes on Barnes and Noble to you know, for it to go through its interior processing to be available on Barnes and Noble Press, and it went live on Amazon. Actually, it was scheduled to go live on today, September 30th, but I got an email at 2 p.m. on the 29th that it was up. I think it's time zone thing. So it's up, it's there. Last night I created some content underneath the Amazon landing page just so people can learn more about the book. And I think that I know that I'm invited in my creativity to, I feel very deeply rooted, pun intended, with the banyan tree being the ambassador, in saying that what I create using my gifts, showing up in the ways that feel vulnerable, that feel raw, that feel ultimately connected to who I am, right? Writing these books, sitting down right here, right now, leading with my power of vulnerability, like is the path. And with these books and with created works and the reformed people pleaser in me, it is not my role, my responsibility to be attached to how the works are received. My role is to create, be in the flow, come with intentions that are pure, and create in the image of the creator, right? In divine vertical awe, and then release these created works into the wild and allow them to surf out and be impactful in whatever way that they are meant to. And it's not up to me, and it's not that I don't get to stay tuned for like some of the fun parts of how it's received, but ultimately that it's not my role. Like my role is to create and release, catch and release, right? Like catch those ideas that come through us, like the big magic that Liz Gilbert talks about, and then release it. And be that conduit, be that divine conduit, because those ideas and those divine nudges and those divine downloads are coming, flowing through me, flowing through you, flowing through whoever for a reason. Um, and we all have a book inside us, a story inside us, creative work inside us. We're all artists, we're all creatives. It's part of our souls. And it's been so fun leaning into the creative awakening in me. I mean, I've always been that artist. And for years, I was a scientist and physician walking the hospital halls and doing that and finding ways to be creative, reading to my patients. But now in the after bedtime hours, like I am here, I get to sit down, I get to download, I get to process, I get to celebrate, I get to create. And part of my creative process, part of my creative flow, is not judging anything, is not writing anything out, is not having a plan, but is knowing that each day is a blank easel board, each day is a blank canvas. I can landscape it in perfect imperfection, right? In the messy magical. So today, the book came out. I didn't have a post on social media prepared for it to launch into the world. Like, didn't have one. Tiara, my amazing soul sister of an illustrator, Forever Ohana, created a post, and it was beautiful. And it had a beautiful song by Lila Miola, a Maui artist who commemorating Lahaina, and beautiful words. And she tagged me as a collaborator in it. It was perfect, done. And then I sent out a mass text to our family and friends in Ohana, both chosen Ohana here in Hawaii and Beyond the Reef. Just kind of like a form text I just sent out, because I'm still on the digital detox, digital fast, and trying to be mindful in front of and be intentional when I'm have my phone away when I'm around JD and Camden and Cruz and Cord. I love how long it's getting to say that. And in the full spirit of vulnerability, I still feel like there's one more to shepherd around, like when we go places. We went to the pumpkin patch yesterday, which was amazing. It's our 5th year going to the pumpkin patch, actually 6th. The first year we just didn't make it into the patch. Cruz was a newborn and we went across the street to the park. But school started much later today because I allowed myself to take a nap. I was up most of last night, and I took a nap with Cord in the afternoon, and then we started school later. We pivoted like a car appointment that we had, and we were going to go grocery shopping, and we were going to do all these things, and just called an audible and said, let's stay home, and did that. And then moved my body, worked out much later. And so kind of circling back to my creative flow, it is movement as medicine. It is moving my body. Oftentimes I get very clear divine downloads, divine nudges, really cool, like ideas that come flowing through me, like moving through my brain waves, connecting those neural connections when I'm moving my body. So I really should keep a pad and paper next to the Peloton, because oftentimes I'll like unclip and run off and just like come write something down. Or I just like hop into my gratitude journal. I'm on year 5 after I'm done. So that's one non-negotiable part of my day one mama mentality, is moving my body. And so tonight I started my workout after 11 p.m. And Kim and Cruz were still up, and they were in here on their radio flyer bikes riding the Peloton. And we did a boot camp and they had their weights. Camden had small egg weights, and Cruz used the Peloton like 3-pound weights. And I had weights, and they did the whole workout with me for 45 minutes, like bike floor. And what a blessing that we got to do that together. And then I did 10 minutes of postpartum core, then got everybody down to late bedtime. And they were talking about nocturnal animals and how it would be really hard to be nocturnal. And I'm like, oh no, I've given you that gift. And like, anyway, because I'm kind of nocturnal and in some ways they are. They are. Um, but I love how they regulate their sleep and how we've created the freedom of life to be able to do that and hop time zones and adjust. Um, so moving my body is a huge part of my creative flow. And the second piece for me is a spiritual gym, and that is connecting the vertical awe, being in nature, grounding myself in the morning, allowing my senses to be delighted by nature around me, ensuring that there's no 90-degree angles, meaning like houses and walls and computers and technology, but just open-ended. I think that's why I connect with Dr. Seuss so much. Like he never has these straight lines. They're all curvy and flowy. And so I need that. I derive much um, like whimsical wonder in just being in nature in that way. So that's part of my spiritual gem. And another part is just praying without ceasing in the sense of like, I don't have to be on my knees in prayer, although that's a reverent position for some. It's like an all day dialogue and just kind of a, you know, nobody else is in our mind space and our brain space and our mentalities more than us. So I'm doing um, my best, and it's fun to make it fun in there, make it uplifting, speak life and love over myself, and have this ongoing dialogue with the divine as a chosen daughter of the King. And so that's very spiritual for me. And then also to be in the Word, to be reading. We're about to start an all church series, like, and I signed JD and I up for the first time to actually go in person physically to our church and do the Bible study. We've done Zoom in the past, or just done it on our own together. Um, or I've read it on my own. But uh, the spiritual gem is very real for me because everything that I have, everything that I am, I realize I know is borrowed. That's part of my mama monk mindset. Every good and perfect thing I've been given is from the Lord, and every breath I take, all my children, everything that I count as an accomplishment is really borrowed and it's from God. And I want to ensure that every breath I take, my health um, is centered around that gratitude and that knowing and that vertical awe. Sunsets are helpful for that too. We started sunset postpartum family outings where it was mostly for JD and Camden and Cruz to get their wiggles out and hop in the water and splash and play. And Cordo and I would be on the beach, like breastfeeding her. I'd be doing little newborn photo shoots or taking pictures of her with her milestones. And we've continued that practice. We don't always get out to the beach, but most nights we do, and we do it no matter what kind of like mess is in the kitchen and where we're at with dinner, and if the puzzles and all the toys and games are stuffed animals are cleaned up for the day, which we're on a major stuffed animal um, revitalization right now. They've all come out from the bags that they were in the closet, but it's really cute because Camden like organizes them and Cruz too really meticulously like at night before bed. And I remember loving to bury myself in stuffed animals and the comfort of that. And even in college, I would like line up whatever stuffed animals I had and I would teach them. So we've been bringing them to school. But my creative process is movement as medicine, going to my spiritual gym, which is like nature. And when I work out, those worlds collide like the Venn diagram because I love to be able to look. Either I open the window, I open the door, no matter how hot it is, and like hear and interact with nature. Um, I've always liked working out in nature, or if I'm inside to have that view. Um, and the last piece for me is carving out time, like the inner introvert and Anique that thrives in the space and place to hear herself, to hear her thoughts, to connect with herself so that she can continue to connect with her husband and with her children and with whoever is meant to cross my path and whoever's path I'm meant to cross um, flourishes and rejuvenates in this space, and in these talk story sessions and in this mentality that my story is worth telling and that committing to sitting down without a script, without an agenda, without editing anything is the path. The vulnerability is my superpower, and I know this clearly is the path forward. I've been being that divine download for years. And I've been wanting to write my book, write my story, and not knowing where to start, but finding a lot of like inertia to overcome, friction to overcome in that, like, oh, okay, let's write the outline. And I mean, I have a beautiful outline of all these kind of like points that have come through on my iPad and in various other notes and places. And to trust that it's here, and it's here, and it's coming out. And so I'm just going to speak it into existence and then let it be. Let it let it be. And not overcomplicate it, because I do have prior versions of me, and beautiful prior versions of me, that is a planner that understands like the path to things, and that um the scientists and like the physician and the data, and the rehearsing of it and the execution of things, and that it again is a really beautiful side of me. And she worked so hard, and she has served us well, and we've integrated that version, and we see her and we hold space for her. But we're in our era of not judging, of by blind faith, just like in our spirituality, creating in the image of the creator. It's not that big of a deal. It doesn't have to be perfect. Um, I know that I used to look at creations like, okay, it needs to be great because it needs to be successful, and or I want it to be successful and I want it to reach a mass audience or whatever. And truthfully, I didn't even have any numbers or what that even meant. And so my audience is like me. And it's an N of one, and that is enough for me to be able to come here and record this and sit down every night. And then when I end this, I like end the meeting and it saves, and then I go to my YouTube channel and I put it out there. So it's kind of like this living, breathing video diary of this mama tuition of the book that I'm writing, speaking into life through my own life experiences and all of these points that I've written down that are swirling around in my head. And I still sometimes have to not fight so much fight the urge, but acknowledge the urge that's like, well, what if you sat down and and had these points organized and they flowed a little bit better, and they had a timeline. And so you went through, okay, this was you prenatally with Camden, and then postpartum, and then again with Cruz and Cord. And so it kind of followed your journey of motherhood. And sure, there's some beauty in that, but in truth, I am who I am as a mother and as a human, as a creator, um, as an entrepreneur, and as a spiritual um, mama monk, because these ideas swirl and the lines aren't clear. I'm Dr. Nini, and kind of inspired by Dr. Seuss in that way. Nini was my childhood nickname for my sister. Um, because truffula trees and not straight lines are my jam. Like it's what calls me. And so just like Moana going beyond the reef, and Pocahontas like being in nature, and Mulan, all these like Disney queens that I resonate with. They're in nature, and we all have that as mama queens. And so my point is that there isn't clear lines and boundaries and organization, and that's the beauty of it. And I know this. And so um coming and sitting down and spilling this out, and it is my creative path. The vulnerability is the way that the book is meant to be written, whether it's a book or a visual and video kind of diary, gratitude log, divine downloads, whatever it might be. And so it's messy and it's magical, it's chaotic, it's colorful, and it's me. And I'm getting out of my own way in a majorly impactful, expansive way by circumventing some of the ways that I would meander and judge and edit and like get on top of spelling errors and stuff. I just here it is. Here's my speech. It's coming out. And I know I've been given the gift of words and of prophecy and of connecting and of validating. And that's what I've longed for in my periods of loneliness as a human, is that connection and that validation and that desire to be loved and understood. And I'm doing that for myself here by saying you are loved, you are understood, you are safe to tell your story and like speak it. So we're here, we're doing that. We did it tonight at our after 11 p.m. Movement medicine workout, and I spoke a lot of love into myself, like you did that just now. You chose to do that. And then I wrote in my journal and I did some spiritual gym, and then I hopped on here, and that my creative path is in its little trifecta. Just like there's a lot of I think holiness to the number three, right? I've been blessed with three human babies. There's the Trinity. Our first dog was actually named Trinity growing up. She was a Irish, red Irish. I didn't get to like know her very well because I was super, super young. But the story was she hopped in my dad's car, and he brought her home, and her name was Trinity. And she was apparently super patient with me and my sister, like being babies and kind of, exploring her eyes and face. Irish setter, I think, because she's long haired. Anyway, her name is Trinity. So, um, that is kind of my Trinity of dropping into the creative process. And it's fun to explore that and fun to validate that, um, all the way through to, this amazing published work that actually came out. Maybe I'll read it to us so I can have that on, at some point, so I can have that documented. But a tangible, real. I love a book. I love a good book. This is the hardcover, the juicy spine, and yeah, this is a masterpiece in actual production. But it was just as much of a masterpiece when it lived here, and just as much of a masterpiece when I knew that it was. I called it the inner hula oli, like the chant that it was coming through, and the melee of like writing down the lyrics one night after I put Cruz to bed, essentially a year ago in October. It was just as much of a masterpiece then when it existed in paper form, and then on my iPad, and then when the first time that I dared to surf it to Tiara, and email her and just say, hey, I admire your work, and like, here's a manuscript I wrote, and I believe in this story, and do you want to breathe life into it with me, and reverent aloha to me, and here's my intentions for the community, and Hawaiian culture. And it was just as much of a masterpiece then. It was just as much of a masterpiece when the very first black and white illustration came through, to all of the 60 plus pages that we illustrated, cover art, splash page, all of it. Uh, and being able to behold a created work in that way, as I have for the past year, and um, with this book, and then with Oceans of Aloha, it was a 5 year process, really. And with this book, we'll see. But it's a masterpiece all along. We're a masterpiece all along. And kind of releasing those limiting beliefs that's like it's only a masterpiece when it's created and when it's completed, I guess, that you can admire it and celebrate it, but really finding the ways to celebrate it all along the way. And I think that that was very fitting in my book launch today. um, I don't have like a fancy book tour planned out, or even I didn't even have like a social media post planned out. I didn't really take a whole lot of pictures. I took some modest, fun, like low-key beach sunset photos with JD and Camden and Cruz and Cord in the book, and Tiara the night before last. But yeah, it's a real intimate, raw reflection of me and my desire to be part of the healing process, to utilize my gifts to serve and uplift humanity through writing, as one of the outlets, is one of the ways that, I feel like God has put upon my heart and soul, Ke Akua. And and I'm leaning ever into that being my creative process, and that being my role to create, release. So that's what I came on to download tonight. I can see like super close up of my chin on that version, and then this one looks good on the videos. But in terms of trying to use this DJI webcam as the main video and speaking into it, making eye contact. So we're getting there on the tech side, and even if we're not, that's okay. Imperfect mess, because we're here, sitting down, we're recording. So aloha to you. Good job being in your headspace. I'm proud of you. You're doing a good job showing up every day for these beautiful babies, for JD, and shining out in your gifts. And Aloha, we will press